Ofcom fines GB News £100,000 for breach of impartiality rules over Sunak's interview. We're going to read into this more from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from The Guardian with the headline that Ofcom fines GB News £100,000 for a breach of impartiality rules over Sunak's interview. GB News is to challenge the decision and Watchdog will not enforce sanctions until proceedings are concluded. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. So first and foremost, obviously, we have to point out that even though Ofcom has fined GB News, it's been challenged, and obviously we need to wait until the proceedings are concluded of GB News' challenge until that can be said. However, there is also important to point out for those who are big fanboys of GB News, because there are plenty of fanboys, subscribers of GB News. This is once again another example of GB News not being impartial when it comes to their news coverage. And how much more obvious does this need to be made to you guys? You know, if it wasn't for Ofcom, you would have so much disinformation and misinformation and whatnot from GB News. It would be completely out of control if it wasn't for Ofcom. And I'm glad that we have something like that. The body just needs to be strengthened. It really does. The rules need to be tightened so that not just GB News, but all media out there can be held to account. BBC News have been held to account in the past for some of their breaches as well. There's some to other news outlets as well. So it's not just GB News, but they are the ones who have been under the spotlight the most ever since they've been formed. And it's time and time again, many people are upset because of this apparent breach of impartiality that they have done. And it's getting really, really frustrating. And while to some people it has a place in media, to me, I don't see it as a place I don't see GB News as actually a media outlet. I see it more as a means to divide people rather than unite people. That's what I get when I watch that program. I get to make people upset, to make people feel angry, to make people feel that nothing is going right for them, rather than actually bringing some positivity. Rather than actually be less, to actually be a bit more fair with their content. Now, am I saying that Channel 4, ITV, or Sky News, are they perfect? No. But I certainly do feel a sense of they are certainly a hell of a lot better than GB News, in my opinion. But obviously, like I said, we'll have to wait more to see what this says in this. So let's read a bit more into this. So Ofcom has fined the right-wing broadcaster GB News, and rightly so, they are a right-wing broadcaster, GB News £100,000 for breaking due impartiality rules after an interview with the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak earlier this year. The media regulator said it chose to impose a fine over the payment programme titled People's Forums to the Prime Minister because it considered the breach serious because of GB News' track record of breaking impartiality rules. We concluded that the then Prime Minister had a mostly uncontested platform to promote the policies and performances of his government in a period preceding a UK general election in breach of rules 5.11 and 5.12 of the Broadcaster Code, Ofcom said. Given the seriousness and repeated nature of this breach, Ofcom has imposed a financial penalty of £100,000 on GB News Limited. We have also directed GB News to broadcast a statement of our findings against it on a date and in a form determined by us. GB News is challenging the original breach decision in this case by judicial review, which we are defending. Ofcom will not enforce this sanction decision until these proceedings are concluded. The media watchdog began its investigation into GB News on the 15th of February, 3 days after the airing of the programme in which Sunak answered questions from a studio audience and a presenter. The regulator found that while the viewer was able to see Sunak challenged to some extent by some questions from members of the audience, no follow-ups were allowed if his answers proved unsatisfactory. And it found the presenter failed to challenge Sunak on its viewers' behalf to any meaningful extent. You had this whenever they did these things on any other media outlets. I remember them doing it on Sky News when they had other leaders' debates on there where they put a question out and the person was able to rebuttal, like a viewer who had a question, who put a question out to somebody, to a leadership, to like Lib Dem leader or SNP or John Sweeney. I think it was BBC or Sky News, but one of them. And they were allowed to rebuttal back. They didn't have that here in GB News. Why were they not allowed to do that? Sunak was also allowed to freely criticise his political opponents without the viewer being given the benefits of their position or responses. Yeah, that's another thing as well. That's extremely biased. You can't tell me that's fair. That's not fair, guys. GB News has already been found to have repeatedly breached impartiality rules by allowing sitting Conservative MPs to serve as news presenters. The broadcaster regulator said that deals related to 5 occasions involving Jacob Rees-Mogg, Esther McVeigh and Philip Davis. All 3 were Tory MPs at the time, though only Esther McVeigh remains in the Commons. The broadcaster was not only fined, but was put on notice for more breaches and may result in the imposition of a statutory sanction. Ofcom said GB News actions risk undermining the high public trust in regulated broadcast media. The channel has been given permission to seek judicial review of Ofcom's latest findings, but it failed to convince the High Court to also temporarily stop the regulator publishing its sanctions. GB News lawyers argued that in doing so would cause irreparable damage to the channel's reputation. Well, that's your fault. That's your fault. You guys have consistently broken the rules. And you need to tell people, you know what, you can't take full... you're going to have to tell your viewers that you are breaking rules and you need to own up to it like proper adults. It's not that hard to do it. I'm sorry if it's going to damage your reputation, but people have a right to know, hey, you're breaching rules, you're not following the rules, and you need to own up to it. And your viewers have a right to know that. In October, Mr. Justice Chamberlain said the likely impact on the broadcast had been overstated. I agree with that. GB News Chief Executive Angolas I can't say the second name, characterised the fine as a direct attack on free speech and journalism in the United Kingdom, added that he believed it was unnecessary, unfair and unlawful. I'm sorry you don't have the same American free speeches here, but it's not exactly the same here. It's not the same here, I'm afraid. He said the plan to sanction GB News flies in the face of Ofcom's duty to act fairly, lawfully and proportionately to safeguard free speech, particularly political speech and on matters of public interest. He claimed GB News will continue to fearlessly champion freedoms for our viewers, for our listeners, for everyone in the United Kingdom. As we have all seen, this is needed more than ever. Yeah, that's probably why you guys have some of the lowest viewers in the why you have some of the lowest viewers in the entire UK. Also, why you guys are in the amounts of debt, because quite frankly, quite a lot of people don't believe what you guys have to say as well. That might be another reason why you guys thinking that you're champions of freedom, so-called, because you don't see this much with other media broadcasters except you guys, because you guys think that you can do these things and get away with them. You know, you're bending the wheels of people. You're bending them, and you really push that line time and time again. If you're not going to change, then you need to go, is what I would say. And I hope Ofcom gets enforced even more powers down the road. I really do. Because we need media reform. We need media reform because we need to stop news outlets like GB News mischaracterizing and poisoning individuals on information that is out there. They are broadcasters like them, journalists like the people that they have in it, are the real threats to whatever's left of Britain's so-called democracy. What do you guys think about Ofcom's imposing fine on GB News, considering that they've had plenty of them already? What do you make of GB News as a broadcaster itself? I know there's going to be some people who are going to champion GB News, saying it's the greatest news channel ever, because it's Nigel Farage's show, obviously. But yeah, let me know what you guys honestly think in the comments down below. And if you're going to throw insults, just remember, at me, just remember your comment's going to get removed. So be reasonable with your comments. If you find my video interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And if you're going to cry me a river in my comments about free speech, insulting someone, I don't care about free speech if you think it's okay to insult me or anybody else in my comment section for that matter. But if you want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.